Welcome back to With the First Pick on this edition of The Perfect Fix. We're going to tweak. We're not going to fix so much. We're going to tweak the New England Patriots. I'm Ryan Wilson. That's former Titans GM Rand Carthon. And Patriots fans, before we get going here, try to take the emotion out of it. You guys went from 4 wins to 14 wins and to the Super Bowl with a first-year head coach, second-year quarterback, the assistant coach of the year in Josh McDaniels. Take the emotion out of it and just tell us what you think the biggest need is. And then after you type Will Campbell's name, do ... and type whatever the second biggest need is, because I think that's probably the road we're going to have to go down, Rand. So let's start there. We've talked about it previously. You've talked about it going back to the last draft cycle with Will Campbell. Just because he has quote unquote shortish arms doesn't necessarily mean he has to kick inside. But I'm going to ask the question the Patriots fans couldn't quit typing during the game and after the game in the Super Bowl, where he had monumental struggles. And look, there's no dancing around it. It was a bad game for him and also a lot of other people on that team, including the offensive coordinator. What are we doing with the 4th overall pick, Will Campbell? Because someone asked me yesterday, Rand, what does the outcome look like in that Super Bowl if instead the Patriots drafted Kelvin Banks, the Texas tackle who went 9th overall, had a good season for the Saints? And my response was, you could have had Trent Williams out there and they're still getting their behinds beaten, given the way that Mike McDonald got after it. So that's my question to you. What do you do with Will Campbell? And is anything different if someone not named Will Campbell is over there, including Trent Williams?
Well, I mean, I feel like this. I feel like you have to just go. He's a rookie.
Right.
He is a rookie left tackle that needs to develop strength. That's what it is. Let's just call a spade a spade. His arm length wasn't an issue. Right? Like, yeah, he got edged. All tackles get edged. Trent Williams gets edged. We saw Trent Williams get edged this year. Tackles get edged. That just happens. Will Campbell's problem is his strength, is his core strength, his inability to anchor. So where I think he'll be better and is this year he'll have a full offseason to focus on himself and work on his game, fine-tune the things in his game that he needs to fix. Last year, he was coming out of college and he did a lot of training for the combine, training for his pro day. And then it was the draft. And then he got a chance to go into an NFL system in which he had, 2 months, 2.5 months to get ready for an NFL season. So give the young fella a chance. I know that it didn't all go well, but I want to tell you something that me personally, it wasn't all on Will Campbell. Because Morgan Moses struggled too. When they ran those pressures, we saw the nickel coming off. The good majority of that was coming off of the right side of the offensive line, and they put him in a bind. And so a lot of that came from over there. So yes, the Will Campbell stuff, he was highlighted, had some really ugly snaps, but there was an issue over on the right side as well. And so that's what I want to keep people focused. You have more of a chance of Will Campbell being developed than you do Morgan Moses at this point in their career, because Morgan Moses is older. He's 35 years old, and he kind of is what he is at this point.
Are there any conversations between now and the draft where you're saying what do we do now outside of ownership, just in terms of the pro and draft guys and the head coach, GM, about what to do with Will Campbell? Or are we just like, all right, we got to get him stronger?
No, we got to get him stronger.
Okay.
That is what it is. He's got to go. He's got to lock in with strength coach Frank Perino and just get strong. That's what it comes down to. Now, if next year we still having these same issues, then now we got to look at something. But again, we talked about this before, Ryan. I want us to be so cautious in terms of, it didn't work for him at tackle, kick him inside the guard, right? That's what happened with Justin Pugh, who you've mentioned. He was able to make the transition, but he was also able to make the transition in an outside zone running scheme, right? Which allowed him to be an athlete, play in space, use angles. They don't run as much outside zone concepts in New England at this point in Josh McDaniel's system. So just because Will Campbell has short arms, you don't kick him inside the guard because he has a core strength issue. And the contact and all the action happens quicker when you put him inside the guard, and they're more powerful players. And so now you're putting him, in my opinion, in even more of a bind playing in there, particularly in the run game. So let's just live through it. Like you said, Ryan, this organization won 3 or 4 games the year before. They really peaked early. In my mind, I felt like, and you can go all the way back. I'm not jumping on the bandwagon or being a hindsight guy, but at the beginning of the year, my prediction was that the New England Patriots would make the playoffs. And I didn't foresee them being division champions or anything. I thought they would be a wild card team, 5, 6, or 7. But I felt like they peaked early, right? And I'm gonna jump ahead of us, right, real
Yeah,
quick,
go for it.
Ryan. This regime of Mike Vrabel and Elliott Wolf, 6 of their 11 starters on offense this year were all acquired in 2025. You had the 2 draft picks, Will Campbell and Jarrett Wilson, that were draft picks, and then you had the free agency, Diggs, Bradbury, Moses, and Mac Hollins. So that's 6 out of 11 of your starters on offense were acquired in 2025. On defense, another 6 out of 11. You had the 1 draft pick in the Woodson kid who played really well for them, the 4th round pick. And then you had the free agents. You had Chason, you had Harold Landry, you had Spillane, you had Carlton Davis, you had Milton Williams. We've talked about they spent over $300 million in free agency last year to retool this roster. So you're looking at 12 out of your 22 starters were new in 2025. And again, 11 draft picks in their inaugural class together with Elliott Wolf and Mike Vrabel doing it together. They had 11 draft picks, and then you have 11 draft picks this year. So this team will continue to get better. You don't have a Will Campbell problem. I know it's easy. Yes, give him an F for his performance and how he played. I'm great with that. But just after 1 year saying get rid of the kid, let's move him. You're jumping the gun. You're jumping the gun. So this organization is really primed to continue to improve, continue to get better, continue to be in the hunt. This was just everybody complained about the schedule, the strength of schedule. Well, guess what? You can only play the teams that are on your schedule. And they did what they were supposed. If this team was a good football team, they did what they did what they were supposed to do against every team that they played. And so now the schedule flips. If Patriots fans, if you want to go look, and we'll find out where this team is next year, you go look at this home and away schedule. The away schedule is brutal. You have some brutal, and I don't know how quickly producer Strike. I'm gonna keep talking to see if he could throw up that schedule, but we'll really get to see what this New England Patriots team is moving forward when they start playing next year in the 2026 season, because now that strength of schedule gets a lot tougher. So I know, Ryan, again, I've taken over, at this point, but they
That's okay.
have 36.7 million dollars in cap space this year. You have like guys that I've looked at in terms of renegotiation or cap casualty are all guys, in their 30s plus. Morgan Moses being one of them, like I mentioned, 35 years old. He's a $10.4 million cap number, carries a $7.3 million cap hit. You have Garrett Bradbury. Garrett Bradbury at one point was the weak link of the offensive line. He's kind of righted the ship a little bit, started playing better. But he's due $7.4 million in terms of his cap hit, carries a $1.2 million dead cap hit. Hunter Henry, 32 years old, really wasn't effective in the offense per se. $11.75 million cap hit next year.
Nice.
And $2.5 million. And then the final one before we hit this schedule, Stephon Diggs. That's going to be the big one. $26.5 million cap hit for this year with a carrying an $8 million dead cap hit. Now, going back to what I was saying, look at this home schedule. Obviously, the first 3 teams are your division opponents. But then you got the Bears, you got the Chiefs, the Lions, the Jags, the Chargers, the Seahawks. That says a lot. And then you look on the road, the 3 division teams. You got to go to Denver. You got to go to Green Bay. Minnesota, we'll see where they are. The Steelers, we'll see where they are. And this Raiders team will be a new look Raiders team. So this is a tough schedule next year. For all those people that complained about the strength of schedule last year, it was easy for them to play and yada, 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 yada. Let's just see now. Now the question will be answered as to where this Patriots organization really is.
Yeah. Shout out to Striker for whipping that together. Toot sweet there. I love that. So go back to Will Campbell. It sounds like the only thing he needs to do this offseason, in addition to hooking up with the strength coach, is Pilates and yoga for the core strength, and then whatever regimen they have him on. You talked about the salary cap space. Let me throw some names at you in terms of what you want to do with them. Caleb Chason was a reclamation project this year, former first-round pick. Finally put it all together. That was pretty fun to watch. And Kyrus Tonga was a big part of that interior defensive line. They got him for a bargain. And Jack Gibbons, we saw him be an instrumental player as a role player at linebacker. Any of those guys. And Jalen Hawkins, I should mention as well.
So I had Jalen Hawkins. I think you try to figure it out. Caleb Chason, I think there's a way to get him back this year. And a guy that we don't have up there, Thayer Munford. He was their heavy tackle.
Yep.
I think there's a role for him as the swing tackle because you can never have enough of those. In this free agency box here, Jack Gibbons, I believe Jack Gibbons is a restricted free agent. So it'll be interesting to see how they tag him, right? Because you have the option to make him a first round tender, which means if you're a restricted free agent, your current club has the right of first refusal.
Yep.
So if the Patriots were to tag Jack Gibbons with a second round tender, whatever that number comes with, and a team signs him to an offer sheet and the Patriots don't match, then that team would forfeit their second round pick, which I don't think anyone would do that. I don't know that the Patriots would tender him that high, but you could also do what they have is called an original round tender, which is a much lower number, but Jack Gibbons was undrafted, so his original round tender number would be significantly lower, which basically kind of locks them in and being able to keep him. But even if a team signed him to an offer sheet, they wouldn't get much in return. Now, the other trick of it too is him being a restricted free agent, you can actually do a rework deal and get him at a much lower price than what that tender number would be if he would be willing. And if I'm Jack Gibbons, Jack Gibbons was signed in Tennessee as an undrafted free agent under Mike Vrabel, knows the system, knows how to play in the system. You can poke holes in his game and say everything he's not, but he's a productive player when he's out on the field. If I'm Jack Gibbons, I'm figuring out something to get done in New England. I'm not leaving a system that I know I'm the perfect fit for.
Yeah, and that's a good point. We've talked about that previously with players, maybe not getting their true market value, but taking, if you want to call it a home team discount, you can. But everything else falls into place. The system, the winning.
I call it consistent money versus hitting the lotto.
Yeah, and that's a good way to put it. That's right. You know what you're setting yourself up for, and you don't necessarily know what you're walking into if you go to another team that maybe has a little more dysfunction than certainly what the Patriots had in 2025. You mentioned the 11 draft picks, Rand. 6 coming in rounds 5 or later. So let's do the old game here, most bang for the buck. And I got some names here. I'm pretty excited about these names, and you tell me which direction we want to go here. So your guy, Monroe Freeling, left tackle out of Georgia. We'll see if he can play on the right side, or we can go with Maxie Iheanacho if you want. Bottom of the first round, maybe a little rich for both, but if developmental guys, if you want to bring him on slowly. Or edge rusher TJ Parker, should he happen to fall for whatever reason, maybe trade up 5 spots, whatever the case may be, should he be there to the bottom of the first round? Or wide receiver Chris Brazzell, deep threat if you don't know what's going to happen with Steph Diggs. And honestly, the wide receiver room was a huge question in August. It turns out that Drake May and Josh McDaniels covered up a lot of those holes. And a little bonus for you, day 2, Jacob Rodriguez. He feels like the perfect sort of Mike Vrabel / Patriots player if you got him on day 2.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I like the Chris Brazzell thought in the bottom of 1. Who was the other guy you said on the defense?
Edge rusher TJ Parker out of Clemson.
Yeah, I like that as well because I do think they need edge rush help. I really do. The thing is with Monroe Freeland, he would be interesting to see if he could play right. Maxie Iheanacho, I think, is a bit rich because he is still a little bit of a project to me.
Yep.
And with them having as many questions as they do already with Will Campbell, I don't think they're in position to take on a project on the right side as well. So that's where I will kind of be a little bit more cautious there. I like the Jacob Rodriguez thought and fit there, but what's the guy? Ellis, Christian Ellis. I think Christian Ellis should have been playing a lot more
I agree.
than he did because of his versatility. He had more of an ability to make those impact splash plays. Now he played a lot in nickel in their nickel situations, their dime situations. But he's a guy that I would like to see on the field a little bit more because he can make those type of plays, create those turnovers, and match up with some of those guys out of the backfield. So I would probably lean more towards TJ Parker and Chris Brazzell than I would those other guys.
Yeah, especially if we're talking immediate impact players, they're going to come in, probably hit the ground running a little bit more than developmental tackles. Patriots fans, let us know what you want to do at the bottom of round one. And here, let's make it a little tricky. Don't name an offensive lineman. Another position besides offensive line that you think would be impactful for the Patriots as they're going to try to run it back here, at least in the AFC, get back to the Super Bowl. All right, Jim Moore time. Striker, what we got?
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs?
So, Rain, we've talked about the Seattle Seahawks perfect fix, which is also basically a tweak, and their path feels easier as we sit here at the end of the season to return. The New England Patriots path feels a little bit more difficult. We just saw the schedule. The Buffalo Bills have a new head coach. We'll see the Baltimore Ravens have a new head coach. Kansas City Chiefs are going to have a healthy Patrick Mahomes and so on and so forth. I think they're a win more than they lose team next season. But if you told me based on that schedule, they went 9-8 and just missed the playoffs, that wouldn't necessarily shock me either.
No, and I agree with you. And I think in my mind, I'll run it back to what I thought at the beginning of the season. I think this organization could be right back in the hunt for that 5, 6, 7 seed in the in the playoffs. I don't know. I mean, well, I'll just say it this way because I'm not going to discount them. I think it is going to come down to them in Buffalo. Again, I'm not so as optimistic about Buffalo. Is saying that they're coming in, they're going to win the division. I don't know that I necessarily believe that. But again, I believe in what Elliott Wolf is doing in terms of building his team. Like we talked about, 11 draft picks last year, 11 draft picks this year. They had 12 new acquisitions in terms of starters. So this will be another retool look of this roster for next year. And I think they're starting to build their unison in terms of Mike Vrabel and Elliott Wolf working together. So I do think that, like you said, they'll be a win more than they lose team. But I do believe they'll be right in the picture of making the playoffs again. But man, I mean, to me, it's going to have to be, they're going to have to win the division. I'll just sum it up by saying that they're going to have to win the division to make the playoffs because some of those teams we mentioned, the Colts will be healthy this year with getting Daniel Jones back or figuring out where that's going to be. Houston will be right back in the thick of things. We'll see where Baltimore is. We'll see where Pittsburgh is, just in terms of the change and the turnover there. But a healthy Cincinnati. You got all these teams out in the
Your
AFC
guy,
West.
JG in Jacksonville.
Yeah, you got Jacksonville. So it's this AFC is really, really loaded. And so we'll see. But again, to answer the question, they're going to have to win the division to make the playoffs.
All right, on a scale of 99.9 to 100, how worried are you about Drake May?
I'm not worried about him at all.
Not at all. No chance for a CJ Stroud slipping situation because CJ seemed to come out of nowhere. We don't know if CJ's injured or not. I haven't heard. But Drake could have thrown 10 interceptions in the Super Bowl, and I would not have cared.
No, because the one thing he has that we know is not changing is he has Josh McDaniels as his offensive coordinator. CJ went from Bobby Slowick to a new offensive coordinator. And if you paid attention, you heard Sam Darnold say in one of his post-game interviews, it took us a while as a team to get used to what we were doing offensively, what Kubiak wanted in certain situations. Even though Sam Darnold had experience with the system and knew the system, it took them a little bit to get that going. Drake May coming into the year, and especially the way he performed, he knows exactly what Josh McDaniels wants. He knows the play calls. He'll get to a point where Peyton Manning got to with Tom Moore. In certain situations, you will see Peyton Manning, he'll look over to the sideline and wave Tom off saying, I got it, because I know what we're trying to do in this situation. And that's where he'll be with Josh McDaniels. I don't see Josh McDaniels getting another head coaching opportunity. Right. And so he's going to be locked in as the offensive coordinator for the New England Patriots. So that's what I think is the big difference from most of these other quarterbacks transitioning. You don't have to worry about the offensive coordinator getting a head coaching job and moving on. Josh McDaniels will be locked in. As long as the unit is performing, he'll be locked in as the offensive coordinator for the New England Patriots for the foreseeable future.
That's a good point. All right, that's it for this edition of the Perfect Fix, or the Perfect Tweak here for the New England Patriots. Thanks as always for joining to the discussion. And be sure to subscribe if you like what we do here at the old podcast, and we will catch you guys in the next one.